So we're talking about reactivity, we're talking about the risks and the safety. So like the reality really as a whole of living with or owning a reactive dog.
5 years ago today, my journey into dog training began with the adoption of this cute little motherfucker. Actually, before I even got him, I created a 9-page Google Doc that outlined every single goal that I had and how to obtain it. It wasn't anything insane. Sits, stays, good engagement, habits for a solid recall, how to develop neutrality, desensitization. I really just wanted a well-trained pet dog. Despite my efforts, Monty unfolded into a reactive, bitey dog. I could toss it up to genetics, or the fact that he grew up in a pandemic, or a few mistakes that I probably made along the way, but the reality of owning a dog that bites became very, very real. So I dove even deeper into training this absolute liability of an animal that I loved so much, spending hours on YouTube, listening to podcasts, reading, and invested in a few trainers who helped me understand the importance of structure, boundaries, and clear communication. Somewhere along the way, it became clear that I was obsessed, not only with this dog, but with dog training and learning about dogs and how they work. Meanwhile, Monty and I's relationship was literally healing, and the challenge of learning how to harness his drive, help him develop confidence, and also slow him down when it was needed, helped me develop skills and an understanding of training that I'm now able to pass along to other struggling owners. Monty was not the dog that I wanted, but Monty is the dog that I need. And I'm so grateful for 5 years with this tenacious, drivey, crazy boy. And to his original adopters who fell through, you guys missed out on a wild ride.
All right, so that's Monty, and that's my story with him. I train all types of dogs. I train the tiny, I train the large and mighty, I train the barkers, the anxious, the easily excitable, and reactivity really does tend to come from two main places, and it tends to be fear-based or excitement-based. So it's not honestly too common that a dog is just truly aggressive and wants to hurt. That would not be great for survival long-term. So that might be helpful information as well. There's two common themes as far as who the reactivity tends to be directed at that I think most owners struggle with. So dog on dog and dog on human. Dog on dog, what are some of the causes of this? This is a few main ones listed here. Again, these are the most common ones, but of course this list like extends beyond this. So we've got resource guarding. Right. So, I mean, that's a natural behavior, as a lot of this honestly is for dogs, but resource guarding, right? So they have something, they want to make sure they keep it. Fear or potentially a past trauma or insecurity. Lack of socialization, redirection. So they might just be feeling a big emotion, not really know what to do with it. They might bite up the leash. They could get your hand. They might react and bite a bush. They might, get the nearest ankle. Pain or injury. Or just social incompatibility. Dog on human is the second most common, I think, reactivity target, we'll call it, that I see. So also resource guarding is a common reason why, as well as fear, insecurity, or self-defense. Territorial protection kind of goes hand in hand with resource guarding, but could be like more direct as far as like their space, their yard, things like that. Redirection, again, pain or injury, or of course it could be out of like play or excitement. So maybe not an intentional like aggressive bite. Reactivity is addictive. So when your dog rehearses that behavior of reacting out of the window, out of the front door, if you like to leave your front door open, that becomes a behavior that can be really self-fulfilling to dogs, especially if we don't give them another outlet for that energy. And for our dogs that have higher energy, for our dogs that have a lot of drive, right? Like they are going to find a way to fulfill themselves or channel that energy. And it's going to come out in ways or behaviors that might not be ideal for living in our human world if we don't give them information. So our dogs become essentially what we allow them to practice. And this is honestly why so much of puppy training really is just about not allowing your dog to rehearse certain behaviors. So not giving them the opportunity to do that. But I will say, like, for anyone on this call, like if your dog barks out the front window, barks out the front door all day, if you have any area in your home where they get to rehearse that behavior, they see a dog, they see a person walk by and they get to bark at it, that is counterproductive to any of the training that you might be doing to break that behavior. So that's a really important step that you can take today to build a better habit.
How do you take a rescue Chihuahua from the?
This is a dog. This is a Chihuahua who fulfills all the stereotypes
How do you?
that I trained. This was one of my OG clients. This is who I walk downtown. So Carol, if you see me, look for this little crazy Chihuahua. I walk him and his sister, but same litter, but he is much spicier than her. So you can see he is like, he tried to bite me, I think, every day for a month straight when I started working one-on-one with him. But here's Hank's story.
Take a rescue Chihuahua from this to this. Meet Hank. Rescued from a trash can in Baja, he and his sister arrived at his new home and he was explosively reactive and fearful. I started moving at his pace, desensitizing him to my presence, the leash, even just my hands being nearby him. For days, I'd simply pick up and set down the leash, rewarding every moment that he was slightly calmer. Meanwhile, his owner was implementing what she learned in our sessions, starting with marker words to create clear communication and using the crate as a boundary, not a punishment. The crate taught Hank that he didn't have to rush the door or manage every situation and gave him a place to feel safe. His owner also became his advocate, avoiding forced greetings, protecting his space, and letting him take things slow, especially with new people. Most importantly, I helped her avoid the classic rescue mom trap, seeing her fearful pup as broken instead of what he really is, which is a resilient little learner. And little by little, with patience and consistency, Hank realized that I wasn't a threat and that he was safe. Now he loves me, and he's learning to trust and love new people too.
So I think like something that Hank's story reminds me of when it comes to like how much progress can we really make working a dog through their reactive feelings is, we can give them all the love in the world, but if we don't also give them like clarity, boundaries, structure, information, and consistency, we might not be able to get so far, right? I mean, if love worked, I don't think that Isaiah and I would have jobs. I would love to not have a job, by the way, guys. Like my goal is to be put out of business long term. I don't want people to need trainers. I want all the dogs to be happy and all the humans to know how to successfully like interact with them and facilitate like a lifestyle that helps them live in our world. So that being yeah, I'm like, put me out of business. I got a backup career that I'll pursue. So funny enough, I was looking up the top states that dog bites happen. So this is dog on human. And we're on there. California is on there. This is not in order. I couldn't find like a site that orders them in the same consistent way, but these were consistently the top states that I saw, and we were definitely high on the list on all of the sources. So obviously we're a big state, big population, right? Us in Texas. So that's something to consider as well when looking at statistics, because it's just talking about the numbers. But I think there is a culture in California as well when it comes to dog ownership that varies a lot from the East Coast, for example, where I'm from originally, Philadelphia. There's also like much more open spaces and opportunities for dogs to be off leash. There's much more of a dog friendly, bring your dog everywhere culture. People are not bringing their dogs into Trader Joe's in Philadelphia, but they are definitely doing that shit in San Diego. So all potential factors here, but nonetheless, a relevant statistic overall. So I will say it out loud right now. Monty, my dog, has bitten one man in the face pretty badly and has attempted to bite one other person for sure. Otherwise, he does air snap and he does not like to give a fair warning. So if you have a dog that growls or gives any of the warnings that I'm also going to go over, count your lucky stars. It's really nice and it helps make things a lot more predictable. And it helps us respect their boundaries a bit better. So when teeth make contact, and this is on dog or human, so this is the reality of the risk of owning a reactive dog and living with them. Of course, we have the consequence of an injury. So Monty's bite resulted in a man having several stitches right about here from his nose to his lip. Thankfully, the guy was really cool. The guy respected dogs and understood that he was a stranger to my dog and apologized to me. I don't really think that was stable dogs don't bite at the end of the day, in my opinion, really, for the most part. But I was ready and willing to take complete fault for that and liability. And I'm very, very lucky to not have had to do so because people get sued for thousands of dollars. I mean, like $50,000 plus often when their dog bites somebody and causes injury. I also kind of am getting the feeling, I need to fact check myself, but I'm getting the feeling just from like people I know, stories I'm hearing, like instances that I'm being made aware of by being a part of the dog community, that this is like becoming or going to become a more frequent occurrence of people pursuing legal action. So, we all know that person who maybe gets an offender bender and wasn't really hurt too bad or at all, but will do their best to squeeze every single penny they can out of someone else's insurance. So I think that that's also something to be aware of if you do own a reactive dog, right? Like this, and also if you have a big dog, a small dog, like they have little carpet knives for teeth, and when they do make contact, it can seriously injure, especially a child, but even an adult. So of course, injury to dog and human, legal action, right? So you might even just be liable for somebody's vet bills if it's like on another dog. Limitations, right? So like what other further limitations might that put on you and your dog as far as like how you can live with them, things you can do with them. And then of course the impact on mental health. Again, speaking from my own experience here, but I was absolutely devastated after Monty had that incident. And I think that I cried every single day for a week, like genuinely wept. I hope that like if anyone has gone through it, I'm like, please feel free to like reach out to me to share your story, and just let me know, if you need an extra like support in going through that, because it is incredibly stressful to go through. So what can we do? Of course, I think step one is acknowledging that living in our human world is not easy for most dogs, right? Especially dogs who might come from difficult or stressful situations previously. And how can we help everyone function in ways that promote well-being and safety? I think a really important part of this that I'm seeing become a more part of the conversation is recognizing that genetics matter. So one question is, where is our dog from, right? If we got it from a breeder, is it a breeder that's breeding for aesthetics or a breeder that's breeding for temperament, right? So like we might have a super cute dog that we got from a breeder we found on Facebook. We might want to ask ourselves important questions for our next dog that we get from a breeder, which is like, is this breeder doing all of the proper health testing? Is this breeder going to let me meet the parents? What is the behavior like of the parents? Is this breeder going to match me with the best fit amongst the litter for me, my family, my household, my lifestyle? Or is this breeder just kind of looking to make a quick buck, right? And I think that it's similar when we also adopt a dog, right? So Monty is a rescue from a shelter. Considering the dog for who they are and our awareness of their past experiences or our lack thereof is a really important thing to acknowledge. No matter where our dog is from, I think it's also important to recognize, like, what is this breed meant to do? So in this picture, you can see that Monty is doing a little bit of bite work with my friend Toma. So Toma and his wife run a great training facility up in LA and Upland. I definitely recommend going there. They do things like bite work. They do scent work. So if you've got a hound or a dog that was bred to do anything that has to do with scent, that's like one important outlet that you can give them, right? So hand in hand with what were they bred for, and are we fulfilling that need? Because if we're not, and we got a work and breed dog especially, and we just kind of were hoping that they'd be a lazy couch potato, that could contribute to the reactivity you're seeing outside of the home or even inside of the home. Is it the owner's fault? Hard to say. I think this is really a gray area, honestly, when it comes to reactivity. Of course, there's mistakes that I'm sure we may have all made along the way, right? Back in the day, I would be walking, I'd see another dog. Monty is reactive towards dogs and also like human selective. So I'd be seeing a dog and I would want to pull off and have Monty sit, stay, and watch the dog go by. What I inadvertently was doing was saying, hey, sit here, stay as still as you can, even though I know you feel really tense and freaked out, and stare at this thing that's freaking you out. Tends not to be the most productive approach. All that to say as well, though, I think, there is an element of this where, clearly I became a dog trainer, right? I've read tons of books. I've worked with multiple trainers, and like I still continue to learn and try to do what I can to help Monty be more neutral around dogs and more confident around people. But there is an element of this is who my dog is, right? And again, considering like genetics, pit bulls bred to bite, German Shepherd bred to bite and protect. So he may always have an element of stranger danger and just like over arousal when it comes to people approaching him that he doesn't know and doesn't have a relationship with. Being aware of body language is probably the second most important thing that we can do as owners. So, of course, I like to think that there's 3 main levels to the warning signs before a dog is going to actually put teeth on skin or on another dog. So if they're uncomfortable with an interaction, we might see them cowering, moving away, right? Some of the more obvious signs. To me, that's them whispering. We might see some yawning. We might see some lip licking. We might see a whale eye, right? So it's when you can see a lot of the whites of their eye if they're looking up. And they might kind of freeze or go stiff. That's them telling you, hey, I don't want this interaction, or I'm a little uncomfortable with this. And again, this could be a human going for a pet, right? Getting close to them, or this could be a dog also approaching them. I think yelling tends to look like a growl, a snarl, an air snap, and then of course, like when we're already past all these, we've got a bite. So if we can respect these initial signals and encourage people around us to do the same, right? So probably levels like 1 and 2, the goal would be that our dog feels safe enough that they don't feel like they have to escalate to this third category or a bite. So again, another possible human mistake might be correcting the dog for growling, right? Or for snapping. So for Hank, for example, like if I just like went right in, did build a relationship with him and corrected that behavior, that might have harmed my relationship with him long term. I would also say like being aware of what body language looks like that tells us a dog wants to interact, right? So if they're floppy, if they're loose, if they've got a low relaxed wag, right? So like Monty might be stoked to see somebody, or so we think, but his tail is super high, super fast. He's like panting, moving super quickly, right? So he's excited. It might be a good thing, but for him, that can quickly turn to like overstimulation, over arousal, and then he's rah, right? And might just like do a snap because he doesn't know how to handle these big emotions. And that's just him as a dog, right? So another element of like accepting our dogs for who they are. But low relaxed wag, floppy loose body language, and initiating the approach is also good, right? So it's kind of like I tell my guy friends this. I'm like, if you're trying to hit on a girl, you don't have to try too hard. You don't have to go up to her 100 times. You can go up. You can see if she wants to interact. I promise you will know. She will come to you, right? Like you don't have to be all up in somebody's business. And people do this shit with dogs all the time. They're, oh, I'm a dog person. I'm a dog lover. A real dog lover is going to respect a dog's space, not try to get in their face. So set them up for success, right? Advocate for your dog, create that space, especially when it comes to another dog approaching Monty and I can tell he's tensing up, right? He might show me some of those signals we just talked about. He might get heckles, like that little mohawk on his backside. I will step in between them and I will use my body to create space. For Monty specifically, I also taught him heel on my left side, or I say right side and he'll switch to my right side, right? So those are also helpful things we can do, especially like for our people who live downtown and might not always be able to walk on the other side of the cars or cross the street quickly and take whatever space their dog might need as they're working through their reactivity now. Setting boundaries with people. We all have family members or friends who are like, nah, I love dogs. Dogs love me. And like, I just want to rile them up and play. Doesn't work for all dogs. And it can be risky when you have a dog that can go from like excited to over aroused, or a dog that's just a little sketchy or unsure of people, right? So setting those boundaries might look like, okay, yeah, you can play with them, play like this, right? Or yeah, you can interact with them. I need you to interact like this. And practicing being firm about those boundaries. And honestly, like the bully breed pack walks are a great spot to do that, right? Just to practice setting spatial boundaries with other people, with other dogs, right? Not that anyone's gonna honestly try to really get up in your space, but like to literally be like, hey, can we fabricate this scenario? Can you after the walk, like, you know, can your husband hold the dog, and can you come up and try to say hello to me, or just, you know, see how my dog wants to interact with you, and I can guide you through that process and let you know how they like to be interacted with, if at all. Group class is also another really helpful space to fabricate these kinds of scenarios, and again, just get that practice in, right? Because it can be hard to learn to be okay disappointing people in those scenarios, especially when a kid comes up and they just want to pet your dog that they think is so cute. But when it comes to the risks, right, it's super important that we are firm in our boundaries. It takes practice, though. Accepting your dog for who they are. So asking yourself, who is this interaction for, right? So when it does come to like people that do just want to say hello to our dogs, right? I have friends that come over. If there's a bunch of us, I might crate Monty because that's what's best for him. So that's me setting him up for success. And honestly, I still have to fight that feeling of people being like, oh, like, what? Like, where's Monty? Why can't he come out? And then I'm like, oh, I kind of feel like an asshole for this, right? Like my dog, he's really well trained. He's got great obedience, but the reality is I can't trust other people to respect his boundaries and be aware of his list of triggers, even if I write him out on the wall, you know? So who is the interaction for? Does Monty really want to be out here around a bunch of people that are going to try to pet him and invade his space? Or is that just what they want? Or is that the dog that I want him to be? And is that who he is? So again, as reactive dog owners, I think investing in good training, of course, and putting in the effort to maintain it. So like we might, you know, be able to make really great progress foundationally with like 4 to 5 sessions. But for me, I think that training is an adjustment to your lifestyle. That's the only way that it's going to be successful. So finding new ways to live with our dog that can like promote the behavior that we want to see more of. I think also investing in proper care. So finding people you can trust to watch your dog is really difficult. And rather than dropping them off at the doggy daycare that's closest because it's like the most convenient, right? But maybe they kind of get to rehearse some of these behaviors we don't want to see. They're always on go. There's no downtime. It's a big group of dogs, and there's one 19-year-old there that's in charge of all of them, and they got no idea what the body language cues are, right? Or how to create that space or break up a dog fight if it happens. That would be the opposite of an investment. That'd be probably throwing away the investment of your time, energy, possibly money that you've put into your dog in your training sessions. Finding a community. So being here, honestly, is a really great first step. The bully breed is a really great resource for pack walks. So if group classes, if investing in training is something that's like not accessible to you, like there are multiple free events, and there are some really great paid events that are a little more might make financial sense for you at this time, more so than investing in like a private session with a trainer. Finding a community, I think, is really what helped me like get through a lot of my struggles that like I had to endure with Monty. So just being able to talk about it and say it out loud. So it kind of goes hand in hand with having the hard conversations, right? So even with Monty, like I've thought about rehoming him, right? Some of these things are important to just acknowledge the realities of, like, if I want to have kids, is this a dog that can live safely with them? Or how can he? As dog lovers, I think respecting their space. So the first thing I do when I go into a client's home is I'm ignoring their dog, especially if it's reactive. More often than not, this really gets the dog to trust me, and they end up loving me. So if you can, I definitely would recommend spreading some of the information that hopefully, if any of it is new to you tonight, that you picked up or that you're already aware of, and having some of these conversations, right? Respecting space, teaching others to do the same, but especially with any like kids that we have in our life. So we kind of have an opportunity to like be the change, right? And like set a new tone for dog culture, rather than this like pet all the dogs, love all the dogs, which like we do love all the dogs, but we don't need to always show it in our human way. How can we show our dogs love and respect in a way that they also enjoy? Weighing the reality, right? So whether you have or are considering acquiring a dog or another dog maybe to your home. So weighing out the reality of like, what does this look like? What will I do if some behavioral problems develop? And of course, accepting dogs for dogs, right? So who is a good dog? That's actually a great book by a woman named Jessica Pierce that I definitely would recommend. And know that the loose leash walk is not the end all be all. So for Monty, for example, I think it's his least favorite activity, and it continues to put him in that confrontational situation with another dog that doesn't feel good for him. So if a dog is in the wild, right, we'll never see two dogs walking in a straight line towards each other making eye contact unless they're about to fight. But we put our dogs in that confrontational situation almost every day, and then we get upset with them if they can't do it. I was living in Pacific Beach when I got Monty, and all I wanted to do was be able to walk on the Bay Path. And if you guys have ever been there on the Mission Bay Path, you know that it gets crazy crowded with dogs. I went there with him the other day for the first time in a while because I haven't lived there in several months. And I'm walking with him and I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe that I expected this of you, right? Like, again, multiple dogs walking in a straight line towards you. And a lot of them being confrontational. So a lot of them like looking right at him back. Or tensing up, whether it's out of play or whether it's out of like fear and they feel like, you know, they got to do something about him. So what we do now, honestly, is like I will run with him on the bike. I think that running with our dogs, our reactive dogs, is a really helpful way to not only like get their energy out and fulfill them physically, but it makes it really difficult for them to react when they're in that headspace. So if they're running, they literally do not have the time to focus on that thing that they want to react at and that they want to, you know, just get up and go towards. So I found that to be really helpful. I've heard a couple other trainers that I look up to recommend that strategy as well. So I'm not a runner. I got an e-bike and I run that man alongside the e-bike. And I'm telling you, like, the prey drive that he has is level 100 and he is running by squirrels. So, you know, I wouldn't get right on the bike and do that. I would reach out to a trainer and get some strategies to practice that impulse control in lower stake scenarios as well. And of course, like you'll probably want like a decent heel position so you can call them into it, go on your bike ride, and they understand the expectation is to stay by your left side. But bike rides, playing tug, right? Doing an active play session where you can use play productively. I've got a couple videos on this. If anyone's curious, please send me a DM. I'm more than happy to send some information, some general tips and tricks on how to use play productively in this way. Doing some training, right? So it could be learning a new trick. It could be building some of the skills that you can use to facilitate this behavior. But all three of those things, or a hike in an off-leash area, right? Or a hike on leash, or sometime at the park off leash or on a long line, practicing your recall. A loose leash walk around the block, around the neighborhood is not the end all be all. It's a great goal to have, but it does not need to be your dog's primary form of exercise. Okay, thank you guys for listening to me yap. Let's all be better humans for the dogs. And if you guys want to connect with me, please do so. I would literally love to pass along free information. Like I said, my goal is to go out of business. I want people to have all the information they need to no longer have these problems that I see with their dogs.
Thank you, Noah. That was awesome. Do you have anything else planned, or can I like?
No, that's my spiel.
Okay, awesome. That was a lot of information. So I'm gonna try and kind of bring things together, like community-wise, and open up the floor for Q&A and discussion. But in doing so, I want to point out just a couple of key things from the presentation. Number one, Noah, what the heck? Did you put that together yourself? Because that's an amazing presentation.
Good. Guys, it's their Canva Pro is worth the money. I'll tell you that.
Okay. Like, I have Canva, but like I don't utilize it to its full extent. Like,
I was in marketing before this, so I had like a little extra.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, kudos to you, because it looks very nice. It's very visually like satisfying.
Thanks.
I want to talk about advocacy for your dog, because you talked about the word that you used, Noah, was mostly like setting boundaries with other people and dogs, and that's great. But the advocacy portion on the handler is something that I have found to be considerably difficult. And it's one of the things that I hear back from event goers or clients is like, well, how do I communicate that in the moment? Because in the moment, not only is the dog feeling overwhelmed, overstimulated, and having a reaction, but we are too. And a lot of people end up going into our own stress response, and most of the time it's a freeze mode in terms of being able to communicate in that split second, because sometimes someone just comes around a corner and you really have to get in front of it in order to stop an altercation from happening. And it's really difficult, even more difficult to do that if you haven't practiced it. And so I think what you said about practicing that, setting those boundaries and going through the motions, and exercising, like, what if someone came around the corner? What if someone wanted to approach me and my dogs? What would you do? Because a lot of what I do in private sessions is, you know, I'm educating the handler, and we go through several different drills and things, and I assign homework, but I really cannot stress enough that it is not only practice for the dog, it is practice for the human in order to be able to execute those handling skills when they really need them. And you don't have the access to the part of your brain when you're in a stress response mode, when you're anticipating a reaction from your dog, or if your dog is already reacting, to be able to access that information unless it's thoroughly practiced and becomes almost like a reflex. So I think one of the things that we as a community can do better with is that practice of how do you advocate for your dog's space, because it can be really hard, and it's anxiety provoking to have to tell someone to leave you alone, and it shouldn't be, because we also need our own personal space, not just our dogs.
I will say too, do not pet, or like even ask to pet, or like give me space. Like, I love using things like this because it does that job for you.
Yeah.
And like, I know some of us, like, there was hesitation on my end of like, oh, I don't want him to look like a scary dog. I was walking around with this man in a bandana sometimes, but then I was like, oh my God, everyone thinks he's friendly. Like, so it doesn't have to be something as abrasive as do not pet, even like in training, or like I'm nervous, right? Like in training, like a patch, if you rock a harness, there's also like a leash sleeve that you can get. Like Etsy has a bunch if we're not into supporting big corps. Etsy's got a bunch, but yeah, I highly recommend some of those things too, because they can do that work for you. Because you're 100% right. I mean, it's literally taken me years, and it's still difficult to do sometimes, and I think even harder to do with family members or people that we are close with sometimes.
Yeah.
I have a note. So similar to you, Noah, my dog did bite a neighbor, and I had to pay for the vet bills and stuff. But then I did a ton of research on, liability and stuff like that. And something that I found is that if you put a label on your dog that says, hey, I'm reactive, or hey, I'm nervous, or hey, XYZ, then you become 100% liable, even though the other person gets in the dog space. That's just something I learned. I don't know.
You know what? I've heard that as well, actually, because I was thinking about, and I totally forgot about it. So thanks for mentioning it, because that's an important thing to consider for sure. This is like the skeptical East Coast in me, I guess, maybe, I don't know, but I worry that people might start to see those types of things, or a sign on your property that's like, guard dog on duty or whatever, and provoke a bite, knowing that they could get money. So this is where my mind goes as well. And I'm like, I think it's an important thing to say out loud. So I'm like, yeah, that's definitely relevant as well. So, and on that note too, it's like, maybe we think about like, where do we walk our dogs? for Monty again, like I used to want to take him like to restaurant cafe patios, and now I'm like, I'll take him just to maybe like a certain space where people are, but nothing like that where people and dogs are frequently walking by, or a kid could walk up or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I think that's like actually a really important thing to be aware of too.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Carol.
And I'm sure that varies by state too, as does like the legality of dog bites, right? I mean, like I said, I train with a lot of people who train for like protection dog sports for fun, or for like to use the dog for protection. And you can't even really use that dog to do the job that it's bred for, or what you've been training it to do. So it really is more of a hobby because of the legalities around it. So I think that's all very relevant, like information to consider. And end of the day, set your dog up for success, crate them, like my friend maybe is coming over and they're bringing a friend. I don't know them. I don't know if I can trust them to behave like appropriately around my dog. And I know I don't really trust my dog, right, to tolerate maybe all the things that my golden retriever growing up would tolerate from people, So yeah. Does anyone else have any questions, thoughts specific to their dog, things that like they are curious about?
I just wanted to, hi, I'm Alexa. I have a almost 6-year-old Shepherd mix right here. Mixed there. She's reactive. I got her reactive. She had a bite history as a young puppy, and then it was a few years until she was adopted out. And I knew that going in. I knew that I had a dog that I had to work with. I did get help from one of the other trainers, and that's part of the bully breed bunch, and I've been going to the group meetup group dog walks and stuff. But I just want to bring up one point. The whole advocating for your dog is when it comes to family members, because I had to do that with my boyfriend because I had her before I met him. And he has a dog that's super friendly, super chill. He can touch her anywhere, and she's not like that. She does not like strangers touching her butt or anywhere, feet or anything. And I couldn't do this when I first got her. It took us a few months actually for me to actually be able to work, like to get her to trust me enough to let me touch her everywhere. But he was trying to tell me that he knows dogs and he knows, it's all good. And there was an incident when I think he's used to his dog not reacting at all. So he grabbed her muzzle while she was sleeping, and then she snapped at him. She woke up and not knowing what was going on. So she has now basically also a human bite history, which I don't know if I count that really, because it was more a reaction to not knowing what was happening while she was sleeping. But he learned his lesson that day and has since listened to me a lot more. Unfortunately, I had to come to like a situation where he got bit. It wasn't bad. It was just it was a scratch. He has a little scar, but it wasn't like bad. And he said immediately that was my fault, and there was no liability or anything about that. I just wanted to bring up that point because it hit home a little bit when you said that, Noah, that you have to tell your family members how to act, or people around you how to act around your dog.
Yeah.
Tell them what you can and cannot do. And I've never had a dog before, like all my dogs before that were friendly with everybody, and I didn't have to worry about that at all. So it was a learning point for me as well to start doing that and be strict about it and not let people get away with it.
I think I would be doing a lot of dumb shit to dogs if I never had my reactive dog too. I would.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be a trainer, and I would be like also, trying to pet all the dogs, and I'd be reaching right over their head to do so, and I wouldn't be aware of the things that I'm aware of now. So I can't even get mad at people. And I can't get mad at the dogs either, because like even in your situation and in most of the situations I hear about, I'm like, it's kind of warranted, but also it's just such a hazard, right? Like when a dog bites, especially our big dogs. Yeah. So I'm like, it's tough.
I have a question. Do you guys consider dogs with anxiety reactive also? Or is it just aggression?
I think like dogs are reacting most of the time either out of fear or so like anxiety like and fear can be categorized or like play out similarly, I think, is how I in my experience what I've been witnessing. A lot of dogs honestly are reacting out of like fear, not a lot like when it comes to like biting or like displaying maybe like more like aggressive or forward behaviors. It's usually out of fear. So I guess it just depends. Like some dogs also display anxiety in really different ways.
Okay. In addition to the pit bull that I rescued, I have a pug that I rescued about 6 years ago.
Mhm.
And my issue with him, and I don't know if anybody here has ever had an issue like this, he poos constantly. I take him out in public. He's constantly pooping in situations where I can't take him for a walk because he'll like I make sure to take him. He does his business. I clean it up, and I'll take him for a walk, and there he goes pooping. And if like I pick it up, I take him out, to the mall or to go get pictures, and he's pooping. And I take him to meetups, and he's pooping everywhere. And it gets to the point where he has nothing left.
Yeah.
But he's still phantom pooping, and it's just I don't know how to stop that.
Is the poop that is when he is going, is it usually loose stools?
It becomes loose stool. Like it's at first it's solid, and then it just because he's been pooping for an hour straight, like I'm gonna stop here and poop, and I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna poop, and then it becomes liquid. And I just, I feel bad for him. I took him to a pug meetup with a bunch of other pugs, and he got shunned by everybody, and nobody wanted to come near him, and no other pug. Like it was ridiculous. I can't take him anywhere. He wants to poop on everything. It's just poor thing, So I don't know what the issue is, if it's something like medical. I mean, I took him to the vet and they didn't say it was medical, but I mean, I don't know how to help him.
Does he display anxiety or fear in other situations?
No, he's just hyper. He's super happy. He loves everybody. He's hyper. He wants to jump in everybody's lap. He's just, intrusive. He's not aggressive. He's full of love, but he wants to poop all the time. So I don't I mean, has anybody ever seen that in any other dogs? Because I've never seen another dog do that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I've seen it a lot.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And if the vet says that they can't find anything specifically wrong, and we know it's not like an allergy, and the dog is otherwise healthy, it is most likely a high level of arousal due to an overactive sympathetic nervous system. And what this means is basically like they are activating part of their fight or flight response, and they may be excited and happy and really lovable, but part of that might be a fawning response, meaning they're displaying like an appeasement. Again, I don't know your dog, so I can't like say for sure, but oftentimes like we see it often in puppies, and they get overexcited, they might piddle, they might poop a lot, right? And this is like they're not fully developed in that nervous system response. We see it, there's certain dog breeds that are prone to like nervous pooping as well. We see it a lot in Rhodesian Ridgebacks, Vizslas. There's other like hounds that display that nervous pooping a little bit more than others. But yeah, it's basically an overstimulation response. I think of it similarly to how our bodies cope with excitement. Let's say you have a really big presentation to give, right? Like we all know, like getting the butterflies in your stomach before you have to present your project in school, like that kind of feeling, like that is part of the sympathetic nervous system response. That's the fight or flight mode response, where certain parts of your body are automatically shut down or they are accelerated. And part of that is because your body is getting ready to do something, right? To respond to whatever that stimulus in the environment that's causing that reaction is. And so like, I don't know, sometimes I'll think about like, oh, the nerdy kid who farts all the time, right? Like that's a very similar way to look at it, is like this is your dog's way of processing their environment. And so they might seem excited and happy and have like a loose body posture, but their gut is telling you something else.
Oh, okay.
That's
Yeah.
what's hard about body language, and why I sometimes hesitate to have the discussion about it as well, because it can be so contextual. Like,
Mhm.
okay, maybe we're just tired and we're yawning. Maybe we're just literally looking up, and that's why we have a whale eye.
Yeah,
Maybe we just ate a lot of peanut butter, so that's why we're lip licking, you know?
right. Like,
But yeah.
So
Most-
like what do you do in that? So you give your dog CBDs? What do you do? Like, I mean,
yeah, I mean, you can, if it's a nervous system thing, one of the things that I do in my practice for training is I do what's called a sensory diet, and it's not actually like a nutritional diet. The sensory diet is just making sure the different elements of your dog's nervous system are being taken care of and supported in the way that is appropriate for that dog, because every dog's different. But there might be more like settling and decompression time that you might need between activities. I always like to sandwich activities, especially for dogs who struggle with transitions, going from one thing to the next. And that's very often when we see that nervous pooping happen, is either in the very beginning of a new activity, or it's towards the end, when you can tell, like, if you're leaving the park and you're getting ready to go, they might suddenly like be dragging the leash and start pooping all over. You know? So those struggles with transitions is where I will sandwich things, and I will encourage some sort of settling point before and after, whether that's holding place or if that's time out in the crate, something to encourage calming and soothing of that nervous system. When you think about people who work 8 hours a day, right? We have the break at the 4-hour point, but we're also supposed to have 2 20-minute breaks. We're supposed to have more, but that's what most people are allotted in like corporate jobs, is like after 2 hours you can take a 20-minute break. And that 20-minute break is because it usually takes at least 20 minutes for the nervous system to settle and recalibrate so that you can move on to the next thing. So that's kind of the rule of thumb that I use when I'm working with dogs who struggle with transitions or have like a nervous pooping thing, or piddle when they get excited or something like that, is to make sure I'm cushioning that with at least 20 minutes of some sort of self-soothing activity.
thank you.
Yeah.
We got a little bit of time left if anyone has any other comments or questions. And then I gotta watch the new Hannah Montana movie.
Ooh. Awesome. Cool.
All right. I'm gonna put my info in the chat over here. But again, my name's Noah. My business name is Whole Damn Dog with a WH. So if you want to connect with me, if you want to just learn more about any of my experience, or literally just bond over having a little problem child, I'm here. I'm happy to do so. I do offer walks through the Bully Breed Bunch. I think I'm going to do a monthly pack hike that will be a free event. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, thank you so much for inviting me on to do this, Isaiah. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.